This is the moment you have all been waiting for. Introducing the host fighting out of Los Angeles, California. This man is a former amateur MMA champion with a lifelong addiction to all things superhero related. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the Iron Koob himself and his team.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 60 of the Iron Koob Superhero Movie Review Podcast. This week the team reviews Guardians of the Galaxy, followed by movie, television, and video game news. I'm Kia, your host. With me on the show today is just Everett.
Hey, what's going on?
So, let's talk about Emerson for a second. He has left the show due to creative differences. He demanded a lot of the power that comes with being the host of the show. And given his German heritage, I chose not to give him any because that's what we did with Hitler, and it was called appeasement, and it didn't work. So for the time being, Emerson is off the show.
Oh my god.
Okay. Alright, so let's talk Guardians of the Galaxy.
Alright.
What's your rating now?
I haven't actually watched this movie in a while, but after rewatching it, it used to be an A. I'm probably going to stick it to an A- right now.
Okay. For me, it's a B.
Really? Why?
You know, one thing I realized when I was watching this is when this movie came out, it was at the point of Infinity Stone exhaustion. Do you remember that? Because pretty much every movie dealt with Infinity Stones. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the biggest criticisms of this film.
Well, yeah, like at this point in the movies, they were just starting to release the Infinity Stones, and
yeah,
I get the concept of that.
But I actually think that this movie is a lot better for having the Power Stone now because of Infinity War, and also because of the possible movie for Nova. Mm-hmm. Now, because we have Xandar, which I'll get into more later. But the reality is, for me, this movie's a B because I found it to be a chore to watch for the first half of the movie. And I know this is in a lot of people's top 5. And it's a great film. I would argue it becomes a great film when Peter comes out of the spaceship to save Gamora. After that, the movie's an A. But before that, the movie's like a C or D for me. I just find it so boring.
Really?
Yeah, I like the intro. With Peter dancing. Mm-hmm. And actually, one thing about that scene is, I like it so much not just for the song, which made that song popular, and not just because it's funny, but because before the music starts, it has this totally eerie sci-fi vibe, which I think is really cool. I like watching that part as much as the musical part. But yeah, after that, I feel like there's a lot of talking, a lot of setup, a lot of kind of bumbling around. I would compare it to Pirates of the Caribbean, where Jack Sparrow is just sort of like falling off of things and getting knocked around, and the plot's moving along, but not in any meaningful way. No one cares really, and so it kind of led me to this question: is should the Guardians have known each other from the beginning of the movie?
I think it's a good reason for them not to know each other at the beginning of the movie, because, I mean, they have to have an origin somewhere, and I think they handled it very well, like everything in the prison and.
But why couldn't Rocket and Groot already be partners with Quill?
Well, because Quill was a Ravager. He was by himself trying to get away from Yondu.
Couldn't they have been Ravagers?
Yeah, but that doesn't really necessarily make sense, does it? I mean,
they created this world. They could do whatever they want. I think you consolidate, all the time you have to take for them going like, "Who are you?" and all that.
I think because all movies like this, all origin story movies with teams have to have that one scene where they meet each other and shit goes down. I think it was really good in this movie where Quill and Gamora are fighting over the stone, and Rocket and Groot eventually come in to try to take down Quill because of his bounty on his head. I think all of that like runs really smoothly, even if it's kind of like a dopey scene, and eventually it leads into them going into the prison. But compared to other movies, I think that worked really well. Like, I remember watching this movie like when it first came out, and
Uh-huh.
one of the reasons why I gave it an A was because specifically when this movie came out, I don't think there were many movies like this, like with this vibe and with this like
No,
aesthetic to it.
no.
And I think it works really well for a movie of its kind. Like, despite his controversy, James Gunn did a really good job with it.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of set the standard for team movies. Like, not Avengers team movies, but just team movies in general. A bunch
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
misfits, that sort of thing. In terms of superhero stuff, there's been movies like that before, like The Usual Suspects and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, for me, I feel like Gamora is an outsider. It makes sense for them not to know her, but Groot and Rocket should be Ravagers, I think. And then at the end, when they're all wearing the Ravager gear and they look like a team, that looks great. So I feel like the Guardians should be a part of the Ravagers, maybe the best of them now. You know, like where the movie ends, they should all have like that purple uniform.
Right. I agree they should have a unified color. Like, I remember we talked about that another time.
Yeah, I don't know, I just thought they looked way better like that. And then just in terms, I'm trying to figure out why is the movie so boring for me in the beginning. So after he steals the orb, that's fine, but then he goes to sell it, and I don't really care. I don't know what the orb is at that point, right? And I don't really care about what Quill is doing because he's interesting, but I don't like him. I don't really care about him yet. And then Gamora shows up, and she's kind of an assassin, but in that fake Hollywood way where none of the things she does actually like work or make sense. She's just like there's that one point where they're fighting on their backs, like you know when they're laying down and fighting. I mean, it's just like that doesn't sell me on the character.
Yeah, I know. Like they build Gamora as like the most deadly woman in the galaxy, and she kind of easily gets messed up by Rocket and everyone.
Yeah, they were all kind of trading, but and I know the point of that scene is is to sort of give us a snapshot of what each character can do power wise and who they are a little bit. But I think you could have done that in the first opening scene, trying to get the orb and escaping from the Kree soldiers. But yeah, so uh, you ever think if Peter is gonna meet his uncle again?
Well, like if he goes back to Earth and meets him, like
Yeah, because
I
his
don't
uncle is
know.
in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Is he
Yeah, they show him running away from the giant blue blob in Missouri, right?
really?
Yeah,
Huh.
just briefly, he looks aged up. Yeah,
I didn't actually know that. That's pretty cool,
he's
actually.
in there. Yeah,
Yeah, but I think also specifically with everything that happened in Infinity War, I don't think he ever has an intention to go back to Earth. And they
that's
mentioned
what I
that
was
too in the
thinking.
second one.
Yeah, I don't think he will ever really. It doesn't really make sense for his character to want to go back to Earth, since his mom's not there.
Yeah, that it just doesn't make logical sense.
Yeah.
But it would be
Um.
interesting, like if all the Guardians end up on Earth, because right now it's only Rocket.
Right. Right. Um. So, Digimon Hansu. He's another great actor wasted in these Marvel films. Um, you know, I would compare him to Idris Elba as Heimdall, but he's wasted for a different reason. The reason he's wasted here is because he's a great actor in a throwaway role, completely throwaway. Whereas Idris Elba is a great actor in a pretty good role, but they just fail to utilize him properly. But yeah, Digimon Hansu, do you know who he is?
Yeah, he played Korath.
Korath, he was in Gladiator, he was in Blood Diamond. I guess he's going to be an Aquaman now.
Yeah.
And what was the other one? He's in something else too, right?
I don't know. Let me think.
He's in something else. We just reported this. He's in another superhero movie the same year, I think.
Um,
Because the Aquaman one, he's completely under makeup.
He was in. Yeah, he was. I'm looking at his IMDb. He was in Black Panther in the miniseries. He was in Guardians.
Oh, he's Shazam's wizard.
Oh,
Yeah. So he's a fantastic actor, and they really could have used him for something else. This is a role anybody could have played. To go who every time he says Star Lord, like that's it. That's all he had to do. Um,
yeah. He really wasn't around a lot in this movie. Like I could count maybe like three scenes that actually made like a real difference.
was he in the second one at all? I don't
No,
think so,
he
right?
he dies in this one.
Oh, right, right, yeah. They pull out his thing, but um, I think he might show up in Captain Marvel.
That would make sense because isn't Ronan coming back in Captain Marvel?
Yeah, did they mention that one? Digimon?
I don't know if they mentioned it. I know Ronan's coming back before he was an accuser, so it would make sense that he would come back as his
Yes,
like
I
assistant.
believe he is in Captain Marvel, so at least maybe they'll give him something to make his character worth it, you know?
Yeah.
A word needs to be said about the music in this film. It basically revitalized an entire era of music.
Yeah, this movie has an intense soundtrack.
Yeah, it's fantastic soundtrack. Can't fault it for that. Um, Rewatching the movie, even though I found a lot of scenes boring, I did like the juxtaposition of the music. Um, so yeah, I can't fault it for that. The music choice is an A. I will say though, having made those Coyote Crew movies for fun, I was very reliant on the music because I couldn't make my own music. So I needed music from other soundtracks or whatever, and that in a way, like sometimes when I'd get an idea for a movie, I would hear a song or a soundtrack or watch a movie and hear the soundtrack, and I go, "Oh, we could parody that or something." And I think that that's a pretty big crutch because James Gunn thinks of scenes based on what song he could apply to it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like that opening scene in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 with Mr. Blue Sky. Like he clearly like went through what songs can I use, heard that song, put it together, you know?
Hmm.
He's like, that's my intro song. And then he choreographed the whole thing. It's him dancing as Baby Groot. Did you know that?
Yeah, I knew that. That
Yeah.
was pretty cool,
So you
actually.
can tell like that whole scene was produced in creatively by the song choice, right? Um, so he did that. Then he did it again for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and we don't know if we're probably not going to see him in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but it'll be interesting to see how they do it for the third one because the new director may not have the same sort of imagination when it comes to that era of music or, any music in general. So I wonder, will they abandon those sort of like how essential the music is to this movie, or will they lean into it even more, which, like I said, it can be a crutch. If you go too far down that road and you start making it about the music, start making scenes set to whatever your favorite song is and all that, you could
Hmm.
potentially blow it. So that's one thing I'm interested to see how the new director handles it.
Yeah, that would be interesting because this movie does kind of walk that fine line with how over the top it gets with that.
Hmm.
Like, like the music choices are really good, but like you said, it has the possibility of kind of going over the deep end.
I mean, when I see Guardians of the movies, I'm going for the soundtrack as much as I am for the plot.
Hmm.
So which one do you pander towards? Um, okay, how much of Star Lord do you think is based on Han Solo?
Um, I definitely take an inspiration for the outfit because his jacket and his gear definitely remind me of Han Solo.
Uh huh. And he's got
His
like a duster cowboy thing.
his bravado kind of doesn't. He seems a little more sarcasticy and jokey than Han Solo. Han Solo seems more serious, just
Well,
a tiny
he is
bit.
jokey, Han Solo.
Yeah, he's jokey, but he's not like Peter Quill jokey.
For
Like,
me, the difference is Peter's kind of an idiot, whereas Han Solo is not.
yeah, that's true.
Like Peter doesn't think things through at all, whereas Han Solo is like always thinking things through. Even if he is like a douche about it, but he's smart. Like he understands when they have a bad idea. Whereas Star Lord's like, yeah, let's do it without even thinking about it. Um,
Yeah, I feel like Star-Lord doesn't necessarily take his job very seriously.
okay, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that the guy that steals Peter's headphones is the guy who played Darth Vader in Rogue One.
Really?
I'm pretty sure I read that, but let me see. Um,
That'd be pretty cool.
who played Darth Vader in Rogue One?
There was
Spencer Wildling, and if you look at his face, it's definitely that alien guy's face.
was his
Um,
name Spencer Wildling?
yeah, I'm looking. Guardians of the Galaxy Mean Guard. It's hard to confirm it, but his face looks like the alien that we saw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he was Rogue One's Darth Vader.
He worked on Green Lantern.
You're a little quiet over it.
Yep.
Try to lean in maybe.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Okay, so for me, by the time they get to the prison, I'm still like, what are these guys doing? What do they want? Like, I don't really care is the problem. I felt like it's not interesting to me. I know people love it. Do you love it?
I mean, not like okay, not like love it, but I find it interesting. Like it's a good watch. Specifically, the prison scene I like just because there's a couple like crappy jokes there, but that's like what like pulls all the Guardians together. Like you gotta admit the scene where they escape, where Rocket like retrofits the guard tower, like that's pretty cool.
Uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, it doesn't do anything for me. Like if I made a top five list of scenes, that's not one of them. Um, yeah, I just didn't care about the characters and their like lazy, crazy attitude. I don't know. I just didn't care for it. One character that was seemingly forgotten but was actually all over the first phase of the MCU was the Other,
Yeah, I
the guy who
remember
works for
that.
Thanos. And so Ronan kills him in this. He's like a forgotten character.
Yeah, but yeah, he was only in Avengers though. He wasn't like
He was in Avengers, yeah, and then this one, and I think he was in like a post-credit sequence at some point, right?
yeah, he was in the post-credit sequence of what was it? Of Avengers. It was
So
Avengers.
yeah. Um, so what do you think about Thanos in this scene compared to Infinity War? Now that
I
we have it,
think I think he's a lot better in this movie than he is in Infinity War.
I would agree. I would agree.
He's a lot more imposing, and I love him in his armor.
Which
He looks like bigger and stockier, whereas Thanos in Infinity War kind of looks a little slimmed down.
now based on the Hot Toys figure, he's smaller. He's considerably smaller.
Really?
Yeah. Um, because Thanos in Infinity War is basically on par with the Hulk. He's not quite as wide, but he is as tall, and also he's like super buff, right? In this one, he's like I would say half a head taller than Captain America, in the figures. So it's a question of is the figure out of scale or did they undersize him for this movie? And I think they undersized him a bit because in the comics he's not as big as the Hulk. You know what I mean? I think this one is much more realistic in terms of their interpretation of him. But what do you think about how he looked?
Um.
Because he's less human.
Well, yeah, he's less human because in Infinity War they made Thanos look a little bit more like Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
In this, he looks considerably different, but I think it works. I think he looks a lot better.
Do you think you could have watched the whole movie like that?
I think if they used the aesthetic on Thanos that they used in this movie, it would have been a lot better. Because in this movie, specifically when he starts talking, with that face, I feel a lot more threatened. Like when he's threatening Ronan, like I'll bathe the starways in your blood.
Yeah.
That like you kind of get like a chill down your spine with that.
Yeah. I think I agree. I thought he was badass. I was super excited for him. Um, I've been thinking about it more lately, and I'm really starting to think that Thanos maybe should have been played by a real person.
Really, like with makeup and
Yeah. Like he doesn't have to be as big, but you need a bigger person. You can't have Josh Brolin, but
I feel like you have to have some form of CGI on a character like
well, they
that.
could have
Though.
edited his face a bit, but okay. Again, this is because I think that they should have gone with the Goddess of Death motivation. And if you go that route, then you want them to have some sort of physical contact. That's really hard to do with a CGI character. Um, and also, Hela is a normal sized person. Um, and you have Gamora right there in green skin and crazy features. Why couldn't you have Thanos just being a big purple guy with the marks on his face?
Yeah, I guess that's true, but
And,
I
and
don't know.
then
In a way, I think it looks a little bit better in CGI. You could work more with CGI than you can with makeup.
in some ways, yeah.
In some ways, yeah, but
But people people praise the CGI of Thanos. Sometimes it's fantastic, and other times it's not so good. If you look close, like when his face starts getting weird and he starts like contorting, because he's in pain or whatever, his face doesn't look like it's actually on his head. It's it's clearly the expressions are pasted onto his face. Um, he doesn't always look normal. He looks weird a lot of the time.
yeah, but don't you feel like because there's a difference between Thanos and Gamora? With Gamora, it's a layer of paint over normal skin, so she has full range of emotion in her makeup. When it comes to Thanos, if you want to make it look like Thanos, you have to have a massive amount of makeup. You have to have prosthetic. You have to have like
Well, she wears
enlargements.
prosthetics. Her
Yeah, she
her
wears
forehead
prosthetics, but
and
that's
her
her
cheeks.
forehead. That's not like that doesn't affect her emotion or anything else. Like if Gamora looks in pain, she looks in pain. It's not like with Thanos, like you're explaining, where his head looks detached. If you're doing it with Thanos,
But what does
I feel
Thanos
like
need that's so different from Gamora?
well, if in Infinity War specifically, he's trying to convey a lot of emotion in different scenes, and I feel like if you used practical makeup with that, you couldn't do as much as they did with
But his face
CGI.
is pretty human.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but
I mean, he has the marks on his chin, and what else?
I don't know. I feel like you'd have to have like a full mold for his face. Am I wrong?
I
Like,
don't think so. I don't see how he's that much different than Gamora, other than you have to put the marks on his face. But Vision is way worse than either of those.
yeah, I guess that's true. But I mean, I'm looking at his face right now. Like, yeah, he has the marks on his chin, but I feel like that specifically the size of his lower jaw would need to be like a prosthetic. And when you mess around with something like that around the mouth, traditionally you can't really do as much as if
Well,
you did
that's
it without
if
it.
you decide that he has to look like that. If you're gonna go with the real person, I would keep their face mostly. Just put the
Yeah.
markings on. Um,
But who looks like Thanos? Like, who do you think could have done that?
Dude, I used to think no one looked like the Joker until I saw that picture of William Dafoe's The Joker, and I was like, holy shit. They could have found somebody. So there's somebody out there. I mean, what's his name? Ron Perlman. Boom.
Yeah,
There's your Thanos. Right?
that
Am
would
I
have
right
been.
or not?
Now that you say that, that would have been interesting.
He has the
Ron Perlman as
voice.
Thanos.
He has the weird shaped head.
Yeah, isn't he like 6'1" too?
He's huge. That's Thanos, dude. I'm looking at his face right now. That's fucking Thanos. That's him. And, I just feel like there's no point in Thanos being CGI because he doesn't even fight them. He uses the stones for everything. He doesn't even need to be huge and muscular. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, man.
Yeah, Perlman could have totally done this. He's like almost in his 70s,
For
but
sure, he could have been. He's the right age to be their father and all that. He
yeah,
could
that
have
could have
done it.
totally worked. No, yeah, and Ron Perlman has like this really imposing voice. Like you've seen him like in Hellboy and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
and he's up for it. That's the other thing. He's totally up for it. He would have done Hellboy if they hadn't rebooted it.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's too late now, but I think that they should have done that. In this movie, Drax is a lot more mean and less dumb.
yeah. I noticed he kind of gets dumber as the series goes on. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, a lot of like sitcoms do that, where the longer they go, the characters become more caricatures of themselves. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the Guardians have really fallen into that. Rocket is always an asshole, and then like has some heartwarming bullshit at the end. Gamora is literally all like, "Oh, my sister," even though their relationship is not so great.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like we don't even really understand it. Um, and then Star-Lord is still on the, lovesick puppy, having fun vibe. Um, Drax is an idiot. Like, he thinks he can stand still and be invisible.
Yeah, but that's like a gag. That's not
It's a
like.
gag, but it doesn't make any sense at all.
You're right. It doesn't make any sense, but that was kind of funny compared to other stuff where he just spouts random garbage. Like that was like kind of funny at least.
Um, all right, another fighting, blasphemous scene. Gamora breaking that guy's arm in the prison. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, where she like tries to rip the thing out of his arm. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, I forget why, but they get into some confrontation, and he's got his arm extended at an obtuse angle,
Mm-hmm.
with the palm facing the ceiling, and she puts her leg over it. She like wraps her leg over it, but in reality she's basically just resting her leg on it. And the movie acts like this is some sort of vicious hold, and like she forces the guy to give her what she wants by threatening to break his arm, and then she does break his arm. It is, I mean, I'm just watching it. First of all, there's no pressure on his arm at all. He's literally just holding up her leg. And I don't know. It's just, how can it be so bad? There's a million ways to break a guy's arm and to force him to like give up what he has. Why do it in the fakest way possible?
I'm starting to think that people that make these movies, because like we have like
Never
these
been in a fight.
conversations. Yeah, like we have these conversations all the time. How fighting never looks realistic, no matter how good or bad the movie is. Like, there's no way they were thinking about practicality when they were doing that. They just wanted her to look like a badass.
Yeah, and then it's the opposite because, like, as more and more people now are becoming educated about martial arts and watching UFC, like like an armbar in the UFC is a very common move. The casual fan knows what an armbar is and how it works. You have to apply pressure at the opposite end of the elbow, and this is the opposite of that. It's in the complete wrong direction. And as you know, as society sort of becomes more educated about it, scenes like that just look atrocious. If you showed that to me when I was 7, I would have believed it. But by 13, I would have been like, "What is she doing?" And now it just makes me sick. um,
Yeah, it would have been a lot better like if she did something along the lines of maybe like put him on his stomach and put the arm behind his back. That would have been better.
yeah, yeah, like put him in some sort of hammer lock, or just like get behind him and punch the elbow so that it breaks. We don't even have to see it; just hear the noise, and it's good. Um, so the Kree ships, they look kind of like dusty and thermal. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, you're talking about the Dark Aster, like
Is that what
his
it's called?
flagship.
Yeah,
Well, his
I was just
flagship's
gonna
called the Dark
say
Aster.
they're very cool. They're very cool. I like that design.
Yeah, that's like Thanos' aesthetic for his entire fleet, because that's what Eden 2 looks like as well.
So for me, when the movie actually starts, is when Peter goes out to save Gamora. It's a beautiful scene. The green background. Um, his helmet, it looks awesome. Everything about that scene is fantastic,
I agree that
especially
it's very
visually.
good.
Do you think he survived because of his god? What is he?
Celestial genes.
Celestial, yeah. Do you think that's why he survived that? Because it seemed like he should have died, right?
I mean, if you compare it to Guardians 2, because in Guardians 2 they throw one guy outside and he dies instantly, and
Yeah,
Yondu like dies instantly.
yeah.
Like I feel like that had something to do with it.
And Gamora survived a little longer too.
Well, they explained that. They said Gamora survives a little longer because of her implants and her like cybernetic
Oh, okay.
enhancements.
Okay. Yeah. So I think it had to be his celestialism that saved him.
Yeah, that makes sense. Either
Um,
that or it was a mistake and it was dumb.
yeah. So Yondu in this movie, he's basically a straight up villain, except
Yeah.
for the ending where he's only on board because he wants the orb. But more importantly, he really kind of hates Quill.
Yeah, I it's a
He
lot different from the second movie.
he
Like
does
it's
want to
really
kill him,
weird.
right? He like threatens to eat him, and yeah, that's basically the point I was trying to make. You just said it. It's very different. So it didn't seem like they had the sequel in mind at all, really, by the time this movie came around. Or
Yeah,
sorry, when they made this movie.
it was really weird like cuz when you compare the two, Like the second movie has scenes of them like when he's a kid, and he's teaching him how to fire a blaster, and they're having like all these like fatherly talks and stuff. In this movie, he just straight up threatens to kill everyone on board. Like, if you don't
Yeah,
give us the orb, we'll kill you all.
yeah. Again, I like the Ravager outfit color. The only problem with it is it's the Ravager outfit. Like I can't get over Gamora in that. Like I think it looks perfect of all the outfits we've seen of her. Because I'm trying to buy like the essential Gamora figure. I want that one, the green skin and the maroon outfit. And then we sort of associate purple with the Guardians now, don't we?
Yeah, I remember like it might even be in like the main poster. I remember it used to have like a purple aesthetic to
Yeah,
it. Like
and in
he had like a
Infinity
purple.
War.
He had like a purple jacket in the picture. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up.
It does sort of change a little bit. But in Infinity War, whenever they had scenes, their backgrounds were always purple too.
Yeah, this might be just the lighting, but if you look at the main poster for Guardians of the Galaxy 1, it looks like Peter Quill is wearing a purple jacket. It's probably just the lighting. Drax looks way different. Like the red on his body is like really like colorized.
Because in the comics, he's green and red, isn't he?
Something like that. Yeah, he's
But I
more
guess
gray in
Gamora's
this
already
movie.
green. Yeah, his jacket looks purple for sure. Okay.
You know what I did like about this movie
What?
as opposed to the second one? It's that one guy, isn't it James Gunn's brother who plays Kraglin?
Kraglin,
I
yeah.
liked him in this movie because he was just a side character. He said
Barely
like
in
three
it,
lines. Yeah, he was barely in it.
I'm with you on
I
that one.
think I think that fits him despite him having a bigger role in the second one.
Nebula in this movie is probably the best she's ever been in terms of badassery, but in terms of character and selling us on that sister relationship, I think Infinity War did a better job than either of these Guardians movies.
Yeah, I feel like Infinity. Well, that's all it was in Infinity War. There was no conflict in
Yeah, the
Infinity War.
problem with Volume 2 is that they specifically gave time for that relationship and it still didn't really work, you know?
Well, yeah, like because it was split. In this one, it was just all conflict. Like she was really badass. There's one scene with her where Drax hits her. I think Drax hits her with the rocket, and she like rebuilds herself. And
Yeah.
she like has like that stone cold look on her face.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then they kind of do it in the second movie when they crash the ship, but it's
Yep.
not as cool. And then in the third one, there's like no conflict at all. She's getting tortured, and then she fights Thanos.
So,
and
do you
doesn't share any
think
more
she's
scenes
being
with her.
set up for some sort of confrontation with Thanos?
Well, you do know that she has like one of the biggest roles to play in the comics, right?
In the comics, yeah. So, do you think that they're setting her up for that?
I
Because
think they're
someone's
setting
got to
her
be
up for
the
that.
one who does it. It could be Tony, it could be Cap, or Nebula. I think
I
those are
think
the
there's
top
a
three.
reason why she survived with Tony on that planet. I
Yeah.
think she's gonna be the one to wield that Infinity Gauntlet.
Well, wouldn't it be interesting if the Infinity War movies are the only ones that really gave her the presence that she needed, despite being in two Guardians movies before that.
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
So, in Infinity War, and this is one of the reasons why rewatching this is so interesting. In Infinity War, we have the Power Stone is already taken from Xandar, whereas we see that at the end of this movie it gets dropped off.
Yeah, can I just make a comment on that? I find that so pointless. Like, they go through this entire movie getting that stone. They like literally destroy a ship. They blast down what seems like hundreds of people. Buildings are destroyed. The planet's like in ruins almost because he almost destroys the planet. And then it's just a throwaway line in Infinity War. They're like, "Yo, he stole the Power Stone last week when he decimated Xandar." Like, oh, the whole movie is pointless now.
Yeah, and I don't hate it. I will say though that all the time spent on the Soul Stone was bad. Like it's one of the worst parts of the Infinity War for me.
Well, I only hate it because I read somewhere that they originally were planning on making footage of Thanos destroying Xandar, and that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see them all die.
So you might still see that. Kevin Feige was asked about it. What other characters are we still bringing? Are we starting new franchises? And he's like, they asked him about Nova. This was before Infinity War, so we didn't even know. but they asked him about Nova, Richard Rider, and he says, if there's a board with all the characters that are possibly ready to go, Nova's on the board. So we don't see Xandar getting destroyed, but that could be the first act of the Nova movie. So I'm into that. So now having seen this film again, rewatching it, you see Nova Corps, they're pretty badass with the way they, have the shield and all that. To me, they're like the Wakanda of space.
Oh, they're space cops essentially.
Yeah. So I would like to see Thanos go head to head with a society that's primed to defend itself. I did also get excited for this in Infinity War with Wakanda, but they kind of. So I'm a little worried about how well they'll pull it off, because in my head the battle of Thanos versus Xandar is way better probably
I
than
mean,
it will be on screen.
on paper that sounds good, but they barely got past Ronan. Like they didn't get past Ronan. The Guardians defeated Ronan. If it wasn't for them, Xandar
Yeah.
would have been destroyed anyway.
Yeah.
If they're up against Thanos, who everybody knows is like 100 times more powerful, there's like no chance.
Right. Well, they we know that they lose, so it's you presume that he kills half the population. Now the thing about Richard Rider is that Richard Rider is a high school student on Earth, and John C. Riley's character is the one who escapes and goes to Earth for some reason, and then gives his power to the teenager. I hope they don't do that. I'd like to see Nova be a guy from Xandar.
Yeah, I was actually having a thought while I was watching this movie. So do you remember that line in Thor Ragnarok where they're about to go through the giant portal and she's like, "Look, we can take one of the smaller portals and end up on Xandar and we'll be there in like 9 months." D- that movie takes place like literal hours before Infinity War. Does that mean Xandar was already destroyed by the time that's happening?
Probably, yeah, probably. We don't know for
Ooh,
sure, but yeah, probably.
That's not good.
So I forget about the scene where they start dive bombing Xandar.
Uh huh.
Forgot about that.
Yeah,
So that was kind of cool.
I mean, there's okay. My favorite part about that scene was when the Nova Corps eventually start helping the Guardians, and Star-Lord's like, "They got my dick message." Like,
Yeah.
I loved that entire thing. Like that
Yeah.
entire battle just was awesome.
Again, this movie, as soon as he saves Gamora, which is one of my favorite scenes in the MCU, as soon as he saves Gamora, this movie really starts kicking off. They all know each other. They all have their banter. They all have their outfits. They all have their plan, their mission. I know what is going on. I know what the end game is. It all works. Whereas the first half of the movie, I don't know, too much aimlessness. So Drax keeps running straight at Ronan, and he did the same thing to Thanos.
Yeah, I don't think Drax necessarily thinks about stuff like that.
Like at some point, someone's got to sit the guy down and be like, "Dude, stop running in. You're one of the strongest people on the team."
He's one of the strongest people on the team. He gets his ass handed to him every single time.
Yeah. But so then there's the Groot stuff on the spaceship. I liked all that. I like Nebula's fight with Gamora too. Groot dies. James Gunn has confirmed that Groot is dead.
Yeah.
So even though this isn't in my top 5 MCU movies, it has two of the scenes that are my favorite scenes. One is the opening intro. Sorry, I should say 3 scenes. The opening dancing intro, that one. And then there is the saving Gamora scene, which I mentioned already. And then the third scene is this Power Stone struggle, which to me could possibly be the greatest scene in the MCU. It has action. It has tension. It has heart. And it has like the whole heroism aspect. Like as soon as he does his ooh child thing, that's kind of funny, right? When Gamora's like, "What the hell is he doing?" We don't know. And then you shoot the hammer, right? And it splinters. That's a really cool shot. And Ronan, despite having basically nothing to do the whole movie, he finally gets a chance to like play along with the movie. He's finally involved. Peter runs for the orb, and as soon as he touches it, or not the orb, but the stone, as soon as he touches it, it starts like pulling him apart. The effects of his face, the flakes, the skin flakes like leaving his face, That looks so badass. I wish my action figure came with a version of his head sculpt that looked like that, because
Yeah,
that is
that would have been amazing.
badass. Um,
Like that actually looks literally painful.
yeah, it's ripping him apart, and he's a Celestial, which we don't know that at this point, but it looks so good. Then this is why it's the best scene for me in the MCU so far, is Gamora says, "Take my hand," and then it switches to his mother saying, "Take my hand," the hand that he didn't take before, and this time he takes it. Like, that is good writing, you know. And I'm surprised that someone who could write that scene wrote the first half of the movie. 'Cause the first half of the movie is boring, but
Well,
yeah,
they were saving the best for last, obviously.
yeah, it's a fantastic finale. And then you have each Guardian coming up to him slowly to spread the power among them. Um, it's a fantastic scene. Another scene I really like is the lack of CGI. Obviously, there's a lot of CGI, but um, the area that they're on, it's that part of Xandar. They didn't use a whole lot of green screen. It's like real. You can just tell with your eyes. It looks good. I was like, for once, this is refreshing. We're looking at a grand scene here, and I'm not seeing a whole bunch of fake shit. Like, it's not like they're standing on 10 feet of ground. It was gravel. There were real people there, real practical makeup effects. Um,
Yeah,
I,
it gives a movie an extra edge whenever people put like actual work into the sets.
yeah,
That's always like really
yeah.
visually pleasing.
So yeah, I really like that. It does sort of lend a question though. So they have to spread the power amongst them to wield it, but um, you know that. What are the rules about who can hold an Infinity Stone and who can't?
Well, they say only exceptionally powerful beings can hold the stones, but that begs the question: is it only the Power Stone that like will fuck you up like that, or if you hold like let's say the Tesseract without its casing, will that do the same thing, or the Soul Stone?
Well,
Or
yeah,
anything
I
like
guess the
that?
Space Stone will teleport you, but um, Loki holds it. The question is, how strong is he? Is he super strong? Because
Well, he's
a
from
frost
Bifrost,
giant.
so he's
Yeah.
a frost giant, and that's like a whole other level of like power. That's like Thor's stuff.
So it
Asgardians
seems
are super
like
powerful.
anyone that's an alien is okay to hold it, but for the most part. But humans just
Humans are just weak.
they haven't really been able to. Yeah. Um. So at the end of the movie, we get the sign Guardians will return. And of course, they came back for the second one and for Infinity War, but yeah, it's not looking good.
I
Um,
mean, you know who else I loved in this movie before we stop talking about is I loved Benicio del Toro in this movie,
the
despite
Collector.
him like yeah.
Yeah, he's
I
not bad. I liked him probably more in Infinity War than I did in anything else.
He was only there for like 3 seconds in Infinity War.
Yeah, I liked him. He didn't like overstay his welcome. He's a little too out there for me.
Yeah, but I feel like that adds like a level of like character to the Collector. Because I mean, like you'd never seen the Collector on screen before unless you count the last scene of Thor Ragnarok, or not Thor Ragnarok. It was Thor 2.
Is it
Thor:
Age
The
of
Dark World.
Ultron?
No, it
No,
was
Thor to the Dark World. You're
Thor:
right.
The Dark World.
That was before we saw him in this movie, right?
Yeah, that's when
Yeah.
it's when Lady Sif and that other guy go and give him
Volstagg.
the Reality Stone.
Yeah.
And he's like, 1 down, 4 to go.
All right, so let's wrap that up and get into some news.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go specifically with the James Gunn story still developing, as it directly related to our movie of the week. So the headline finally came out: Disney is not rehiring James Gunn.
That's gonna cause an uproar.
So Dave Bautista, who has already said that if they don't use his script, he's going to ask to be released. He tweeted, "Thanks at Disney, making America great again." So
What is that supposed to mean?
I think he's got to stop because he was targeted. James Gunn was targeted for his anti-Trump comments, and that's why they like dug into his Twitter stuff. Um, but so he's like saying that not hiring him is like a vote for Trump or something. You're on board with Trump. I think Dave needs to stop. at this point. Like, James Gunn got fired for something stupid that he did. He probably shouldn't have been fired, but people get fired when they shouldn't be all the time. So you got to stop going on Twitter and like fighting the man. You know, they're perfectly within their right to hire or fire whoever they want. Um, Even if you don't agree with it, if you want out of the contract, fine, but stop going on Twitter and like making sarcastic comments.
It's like Drax in real life. Someone needs to sit him down and tell him you got to stop doing this shit.
Yeah, it's just like he doesn't look good. I get that he's
Well,
trying
yeah,
to, yeah,
it ruins Marvel's image when one of their actors does that.
and his image because he looks a little bit petulant and
Hmm.
just overall, I'm kind of losing respect. Like, dude, it kind of has nothing to do with you. Like, I know James Gunn cast you, and you know that basically gave you your movie career, but um, he's gone. You know, he made a bunch of pedophile jokes. That's the way it goes. Disney made the decision. Move on. And if he's not going to be in it, it just screws it up because people are like, oh well, he can just be dead then from Infinity War. I was like, no, because the way he died is the same way everyone else died. It wouldn't make sense for him to not come back when everyone else did. He has to come back. And then if he's just absent, then you know it's weird. It's just kind of this movie Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is going to be weaker in hindsight when if Drax like never has a finish, um, and so will Guardians of the Galaxy 2. You're always going to know like this character never gets a proper ending, and
Yeah,
that's
and
never good.
Drax has a big part to play in. I'm pretty sure it's not Infinity War. It's Infinity Gauntlet. I think it's Infinity Gauntlet, or it might be something else. But he like screws up Thanos,
Yeah.
so he has to have at least some point right there.
Um. Okay. So Ant-Man and the Wasp director Peyton Reed says, based on the science that we've set up in the first movie and this one, I won't rule out the possibility. He's talking about the time vortex, Avengers 4 featuring time travel. He says, because again, we are dealing with a time vortex that could happen. So basically, he's saying that there is a chance that there is time travel in Avengers 4.
Well, isn't there time travel in Avengers 4? I mean, they've
Yeah,
already said
he's
that.
not really confirming anything, but no one has said anything about it. Now we know for sure.
Well, I
There's definitely going
mean,
to be some time travel.
with the leaked things that they have, like they've leaked out photos from the set. It doesn't necessarily have to be time travel because they have been hinting that like the barf technology from Civil War is going to make a big play. So
Yeah,
it could be that.
it sounds like it's going to be that combined with the quantum realm somehow, which is interesting. So you know that Ant-Man is going to get out of it,
Hmm.
but does he, before he gets out, or when he gets out, does he learn to manipulate time somehow? Does he come back out too late or too early, or
You know what? I'm really nervous that they're going to pull exactly what they did with Janet Van Dyne. Because remember how she was trapped in the quantum realm and came out with these magic powers?
that would suck
Yeah,
ass.
that would be a cop out and it would suck.
That would suck ass for sure. I don't want Scott Lang with those kind of powers.
Yeah, even if they reverse it at the end, I don't want that. That would ruin the movie.
Yeah. Okay. What else we got here? James Gunn firing, Avengers 4 Time Vortex. Uh, it's a pretty slow news week. Black Panther Wakanda Remix has been released. It's on Spotify. Basically, they just took some of the movie's highlighted scores and um, did stuff with them. So I don't know any of these people, but some of the people that remixed the songs, DJ Dahi, Wanda Girl, Michael Uzowuro, and Jeff Kleinman. Um, so there's 5 songs. You can check it out on
Hmm.
Spotify. The only one I'm really interested in is Ancestral Plane, which is the song when he's in the ancestral plane. That's my favorite one, so I'm curious to see how they remix that one because that's one of the songs on the soundtrack I really enjoyed. Um, yeah, one of them's called Wakanda. The Killmonger theme is pretty good, so I'll probably give that a listen. Waterfalls, I don't really know what that one is.
Oh, that was
Um,
a good one. That's like this. That's like the song they play when they're in the ceremony of battle at the beginning of the movie.
Okay. And then there's one called Black Panther, which is only a minute, which is probably the theme song. So I'm definitely gonna give that a listen. Um, Iron Fist trailer 2. Did you see it?
No, I should probably watch that though. Was it good?
It actually was good. It didn't really highlight many story elements. He's definitely fighting his friend Davos. What was the guy's name?
Uh, I know who you're talking about. It's the other guy from Kung
He's the
Lao.
Middle Eastern looking guy
Uh huh.
who's kind of jealous.
Isn't he like something serpent or like
He has his own nickname, yeah. Yeah, Steel Serpent.
steel
Steel
serpent?
Serpent. Davos, yeah, that's his name. So it looks like he's gonna try to steal Danny's Iron Fist from him. And in the trailer, it shows him with a red fist. That is in the comics too, right?
I think so. Something along.
But does he have
something
to
like
steal
that.
it from Danny to get it, or is that like a different one?
You know, I haven't really read the Iron Fist comics in a long time. I remember it. It's like it's different for every person. I think.
So the fighting was good in the trailer, and there was a lot of Colleen Wing. Honestly, she's the best part of the trailer. Like anytime she's on the screen, I'm like, I want to see more of her, less of Danny. So
Honestly, ever since we watched season one and they played that footage of the older Iron Fist defending the gates with
Uh-huh.
two Iron Fists,
yeah,
I'm just gonna be annoyed with Danny Rand until they give him two Iron Fists because that's
actually,
what I want.
in the trailer there is a scene where they see a deceased corpse of an Iron Fist.
Is
So
it Danny Rand? I
no,
hope so.
yeah, maybe there's time travel. Um,
Yeah, that I've been kind of wondering about that because there were a lot of rumors that they were gonna like start like kind of like cycling out the Netflix shows and moving them to the Disney streaming service. Are they gonna do something with in ties with Infinity War where everyone like disintegrates?
I really don't think so. I don't think they get along.
Because I know like all these shows are based like before Age of Ultron, so there's that. Because the only incident they ever talk about is Avengers 1.
I think they did mention Sokovia once, didn't they?
No, all they ever mention is the incident, which is Avengers 1. And I hate that they refer to it as that. They don't ever refer to it as like the invasion or the Chitauri invasion. And whenever they mention the Avengers, it's always like the green guy or the flag waver or stuff like that. Like I hate that. I hate that they do that. It doesn't
Yeah,
feel like a Marvel show when
hang
they do
on.
that.
Um, I'm reading this guy's answer. They were mentioned obliquely. I'm looking for Sokovia, the Sokovia Accords. They were mentioned obliquely in Luke Cage when in the first or second episode the owner of the barbershop talks to Luke about his maybe needing to register his abilities in order to do good. And Luke replies saying he needs some time to work out if that's the road he wants to go down. So this is post Civil War.
Is it?
Yeah.
Really? Then how come all they ever talk about is Avengers 1 still?
Maybe classic Americans, it didn't happen there, so they don't care.
Yeah, but there's other stuff that happened in America besides that. I mean, like S.H.I.E.L.D. collapsed and you had the whole Triskelion incident.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
And
These are street level people. They don't really care.
yeah, but it's like all over the news and stuff. Like if a building in Washington exploded because a massive helicarrier crashed into it, you'd think someone that you'd be able to see that on the news somewhere.
Yeah.
Or if a city got dropped out of the sky, like people would
Yeah.
be talking about that.
Yeah, but I mean, they don't want that. That's pretty big, so they probably don't want to make the show about that.
But then again, if it is post Civil War, that does give them the out of having everyone disintegrate at the end.
I wonder what they're gonna do. Um, so you've been playing Arkham Knight. Did you finish it?
I got past the main story. I'm like around halfway through the side quests. I love it. I've been playing it with the not the original, with the 2008 Nolan Batman skin. I feel like I'm playing in the Dark Knight because all the villains have that like look like they would look if they were in that Batman movie, sorta. Like they don't look cartoony; they look kind of realistic in a way.
I always
I-
like to play with the '89 Batman skin. Just shows
I
a
love it though.
generational difference.
I absolutely love that game though. Like I can't stop playing it.
So yeah, I was doing a playthrough. I was doing Return to Arkham. So I beat Arkham Asylum, and then I had gotten to the Mr. Freeze fight because I always play them on hard, and the Mr. Freeze fight in Arkham City is pretty tough. So I just never got around to like reminding myself how to beat the guy.
Well,
So
isn't it that you just have to? You can't hit him with the same attack twice.
you have to hit him with every attack there is possible. So if you do it on like normal or whatever, you only have to hit him like 4 or 5 times. If you do it on hard, you have to do it eight. Hang on a second.
You have to do it like 8 times or something. Like
Yeah.
that would kind of make sense.
hmm
I've never played it on hard, so
You know, the games are not that hard. The cool thing about hard, which okay, so anyway, I beat Arkham City, and then I started Arkham Origins, which I like we talked about last week, is
hmm
probably one of the best stories. Like I really enjoyed it. It's a great game. It's not as polished. It has some problems mechanically, but and the graphics are a little fuzzy for some reason. The game was meant to hold you over until Arkham Knight. But yeah, it's a great game. And the cool thing about Arkham Origins is if you play on hard, you can start your original playthrough without the counter indicator. Because I hate that. In the other games, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, you have to start New Game Plus in order to have them remove the counter icon.
what's the counter icon? Remind me of
Well,
that.
every time they throw a punch, there's like an icon above their head, so you know
Uh,
to press Y.
oh, really?
Yeah, I hate that because I don't need it, you know? So, in Arkham Origins, you can start the first playthrough without that. So I enjoyed that too.
That's cool.
Yeah. Um,
I
yeah,
love the way the Joker looks in Arkham Origins. I think that's like one of the best looks.
they all
Like
look better. Everybody looks better in that game. Like Bane. Bane looks a lot cooler.
yeah, Bane looks kick ass, but at the end he kind of starts evolving into what you see in the other games.
Well, they kind of had to, otherwise it would have been a big continuity error. I
Yeah.
just beat him. I just finished the main campaign yesterday. Um, yeah, it's a great thing. So I'm probably gonna start Arkham Knight. I'm just doing it to hold me over until Spider-Man comes out,
hmm
and I don't know what I'm gonna do the week Iron Fist comes out because I'm gonna be playing Spider-Man. So,
Tell me how that game is, because if it's good, I'm tempted to buy a cheap PS4 just to play it.
dude, it's gonna be fantastic. You can just tell. I've been watching a lot of videos. They've said that they are heavily inspired by the Rockstar games, the Arkham games, and everything about it looks like they did it better than they have an actual city, whereas for some reason Batman just never got there.
Well, they have like 3 islands of like a couple buildings and stuff.
The map in
But
Arkham Knight is terrible, if you ask me. It
yeah,
never feels like a real city.
I got really mad because they have a lot of skins for the Batmobile in that game. No one tells you that if you get them, because a couple of them are free, like the
You
Batman
can't
versus
use
Superman one
them.
is free. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't use them, and you could totally use the Batman versus Superman one. It
Yeah.
has like that look,
That one
but
you could use. The reason you can't use them is because they don't have the drone guns on them, so you have to beat the game and then you can drive around with them, but only after you beat the game.
like the whole game.
Yeah.
Like
At least the
like
main story, I think.
well, I beat the main story. Like I just got past what was it? I beat Firefly. I beat Pig. I just beat Riddler for the first time. I didn't get all the trophies though.
I've gotten the trophies in every game.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bitch to get.
Yeah, I mean I didn't do it this time around, but I've done it before. Yeah, I know because I drive around in the '89 Batmobile,
Yeah,
but
I
I
want
beat
I
the
want to
game,
drive
so
around in the Tumbler because that thing would be awesome.
that's cool too. Um, Okay, yeah, Arkham Games. And then so I'm still rewatching Orange is the New Black. I'm on season 5, which is the prison riot.
Yeah.
And the reason I did it was because season 6, like the characters go through so many transformations and the writing is so good that that I really wanted to go back and like watch it again with some hindsight perspective. And now that I've gotten through the first 4 seasons, by the way, it was fantastic. And season 3 is probably the worst one, but it's still great. Um, you get to season 5 where the riot happens, and I immediately was like, this is like Infinity War because you have all these characters that have been building up, right? They have all this context, they have all this history, all these relationships, all these factions. It's a prison. The guards, the warden, the black prisoners, the white prisoners, the minority prisoners, and then each individual one, power struggle, who's the leader, all that. And then you get to season 5, and there's an incident that sparks a riot. And suddenly you have all this background knowledge of these characters, and then they're thrust into this crazy event, which is like Infinity War, right? And then I mentioned that at season 6, so season 5 ends with the riot ending and then everyone being split apart. So it's almost like the Thanos snap and there's the aftermath. And so this is just like a giant event with all these characters that you know and you like, and you're not sure who's going to get out of it properly. And yeah, people die. So I recommend it, man. You should watch it.
Really, I've been getting a lot of it's Orange is the New Black and Succession are the two shows that everyone's been telling me I should watch.
Oh, I've never heard of Succession.
My parents have been heavily pitching that to me, and I was gonna start watching it.
All right. So for next week, I don't know what we're gonna do.
I mean,
Next week is my birthday.
oh well, happy early birthday.
That doesn't mean we can't have an episode. I just don't know what we're gonna watch.
I watched Crazy Rich Asians yesterday. That
Oh,
was
how
a
was
good
that?
movie. I'd give it an A. It was a great movie.
Was it? Okay, I might go check that out.
It's a rom com, but
yeah.
it's a good type of rom com.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's in the description. So I bought my tickets. Remember I said that there was those 10-year anniversary stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Where they're bringing back all the Marvel movies into theaters.
Yeah.
So let me tell you which ones I bought. I have to use the AMC app.
Well, I'm guessing Avengers 1 and Civil War are both on there, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to use this app. I don't like this app that much, I'll be honest with you. My tickets, okay. So I have on September 1st at 12:45 p.m. Captain America: The Winter Soldier, IMAX, and then I have on September 2nd, 12:15 p.m. Captain America: Civil War, and on September 3rd, which is Jade's birthday, at 3:30 p.m. Black Panther, because she wanted to see it again. That's going to be 6 times. That's going to tie me for Civil War, except Civil War is going to go up to 7 after this.
Do you want to hear something crazy? There's a theater up in Agora that's still playing Black Panther.
Really?
Yeah, they're still playing it.
And then I have, on the last day, the first Avengers movie. So these are like IMAX tickets and all that. So
Is it worth? Do you think it's going to be worth it to go and see these movies again? Because if it is,
if you
I'll
want
buy
to,
one.
I'll make a confession. I didn't see the first Avengers in theaters
Uh-huh.
because it was 2012, and I was all about The Dark Knight Rises, and I was, headed for disappointment I didn't see coming. And yeah, I didn't like a lot of the origin movies. I thought Iron Man was okay, but it also came out the same year as The Dark Knight, so I was like more mixed up in that. So Iron Man was a little bit under my radar, even though I saw it in theaters. I thought Thor was kind of like boring.
So what? It was like the Winter Soldier that did it for you?
Yes, I thought Iron Man 2 was pretty bad. In hindsight now I like it more, but at that point I didn't like it. And then there was Thor, and then Captain America I did like because it was World War II.
Mm-hmm.
But when Avengers came out, I was like, it's just going to be like another silly movie. And my hype was all about Dark Knight Rises. So I never saw it in the theater. And then, yeah, Winter Soldier was the one where I was like, there's something going on here. This is pretty good. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, any movie you want to see, for sure.
All right, I'll give it a look. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. So for
Is
next
it all
week,
the movies, or is it like just
it's every
select
movie,
movies?
but they are, not every movie is showing multiple times. Some of them are, some of them aren't, or not. So you're gonna have to look it up. It starts. I have the thing here. I'll read it out loud. Why not? Thursday, August 30th. There's Iron Man in the matinee. So like if you work, you're not gonna be able to see that. But there's Iron Man on Thursday. There's Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, and Thor. Then Friday starts with Captain America, the First Avenger, then the Avengers, then Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World. Saturday, September 1st, The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man. Sunday, September 2nd, Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider-Man Homecoming. Monday, Thor Ragnarok, which is Labor Day. So Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Then Tuesday, 9/4, is a Origins Day. So Iron Man, Spider-Man Homecoming, Black Panther, Doctor Strange. Wednesday, 9/5, is Team-Ups, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Civil War, Avengers, Avengers Infinity War. And Thursday is going to be 2 movies that the fans vote on. So.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, we'll figure something out for next week. All right, this is it. See you later.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Iron Koob Superhero Movie Review Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and most importantly, review our podcast on iTunes so we can spread the show around. To contact the show, you can reach us at theironkoob@gmail.com and on Instagram at theironkoob. This has been an Iron Koob production. Join us for another edition of the Iron Koob Superhero Movie Review Podcast.